They say you don't choose your neighbors. It's the only lottery where winning means peace and losing means war. I lived in peace for 40 years. My house wasn't big, but it was built with honest hands. My backyard was my sanctuary, a place where my late wife Martha and I planted oak trees on our anniversary. Every inch of that soil held a memory. Then, the circus came to town. The house next door was bought by a content house, a group of 20-something influencers led by a guy named Jax and his girlfriend Chloe. They didn't see a neighborhood. They saw a backdrop. They didn't see a neighbor. They saw a prop for their prank videos. They pushed me. They mocked me. They trespassed on the land that holds my wife's ashes. They thought they were building an empire, but they forgot that you cannot build a castle on land that you do not own. My name is Harold Wilson. I am 72 years old, a retired structural engineer, and a Vietnam veteran. And this is the story of how I let my neighbors spend $150,000 building a luxury pool and fence on my property, just so I could legally destroy it in front of 2 million live viewers. It began with the noise, thumping bass at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. I walked over to ask them to turn it down. Jax opened the door, holding a camera in my face. A ring light blinded me. "Yo, look who it is! It's Grandpa Grumpy!" he shouted to his live stream. "Sorry, Gramps, are we interrupting your nap? It's called grinding. We are making content." "It's 2 a.m., son," I said calmly. "Please." "Get off my property before I call the cops," Jax sneered, slamming the door. The harassment escalated. They flew drones over my garden while I was trying to read. They threw their Red Bull cans over the fence. They started a series on TikTok called Messing with the Boomer, where they would ring my doorbell and run away. I didn't react. I kept my head down. But then they crossed the line. Literally. I saw the construction trucks arrive. Jax was standing in his yard pointing at my oak trees. "Yeah, rip those ugly trees out," I heard him tell the contractor. "We need space for the infinity pool and the mega privacy wall. I want it to look like Bali." I walked out immediately. "Excuse me," I said to the contractor. "You can't touch those trees. That oak tree marks the property line. Everything behind it is mine." Jax walked over, laughing. "Relax, Harold. I checked the Zillow map. The line is 10 feet back. Your jungle is encroaching on my vibe. We're doing you a favor by cleaning it up." "Zillow is not a legal survey," I warned. "If you dig on my land, you are liable." "Sue me, broke boy," Jax spit on the ground. "I make more in a week than you made in your life. Build the wall." They cut down the oak tree. The tree Martha and I planted 30 years ago. I watched it fall from my window. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. But then, the tear dried, and something cold replaced it. I didn't go outside and scream. I didn't call the police. Not yet. I picked up the phone and called a professional surveyor. And then, I called my lawyer. The surveyor came when they were asleep. He used laser-guided GPS. He confirmed what I already knew. Jax was wrong. The Zillow map was wrong. The property line wasn't 10 feet back. It was 12 feet forward. Not only were they building on my land, they were building the entire pool filtration system and the privacy wall on my property. My lawyer, a sharp man named Mr. Stone, smiled when he saw the report. "Harold, we can stop them now with an injunction," he said. "No," I said, looking at the stump of my oak tree. "Let them build it." "Excuse me? If they build a permanent structure on my land," I asked, "does it become my property?" "Technically, yes," Mr. Stone said. "Or you have the right to remove the obstruction at your discretion." "Good," I said. "Let them finish. Let them spend every dime." I waited 3 months. I watched them pour the concrete. I watched them install the expensive cedar fencing. I watched them install the heated pool pumps. I endured 3 months of their taunts. "Like the new view, Harold? Jax would yell over the fence. "Too bad you can't afford a swim." Finally, the day arrived. The grand reveal. Jax and Chloe were hosting a massive sponsor party. The Bali backyard launch. There were DJs, there were catering trucks, there were famous YouTubers, and they were live streaming to 2 million people. I waited until the party was at its peak. The music was blasting. I walked out of my shed. I wasn't wearing my cardigan. I was wearing my old work boots, safety goggles, and ear protection. In my hands, I held my Husqvarna 460 Rancher chainsaw. The blade was freshly oiled. I walked up to the brand-new $20,000 cedar fence. Inside, I could hear Jax giving a speech. "We built this from nothing. This is our kingdom." I pulled the starter cord. Vroom! The chainsaw roared like an angry beast. The sound cut through their music. I saw heads pop up over the fence. "What is he doing?" someone screamed. I didn't hesitate. "Property line maintenance," I shouted. I drove the saw into the wood. Screech crack. Splinters flew. I cut through the main support beams. I moved down the line. Cut, kick, cut, kick. A massive 20-foot section of the fence, the part sitting on my land, groaned and collapsed inward. It fell with a thunderous crash right onto their buffet table. The dust settled. Suddenly, there was no wall. Just 200 shocked influencers staring at an old man with a chainsaw. "What the hell?" Jack screamed, his face red, his phone still streaming. "You crazy psycho! You destroyed my fence! You're going to jail!" The police sirens were already wailing. I had called them myself 10 minutes ago. 2 officers ran into the backyard, guns drawn. "Drop the saw!" I placed the saw on the ground and put my hands up. Jax ran to the cops, practically crying. "Arrest him! He's armed and dangerous! Look at the damage! That's $50,000 worth of cedar!" The sergeant approached me. "Sir, explain yourself." I reached into my back pocket and pulled out a laminated document. "Officer," I said calmly, "I am simply clearing debris from my property. Here is the official county surveyor's report." The sergeant looked at the map. He looked at the orange stakes I had uncovered. He walked the line. He stopped right at the edge of the pool. He looked at Jax. "Son," the sergeant said, "this fence is 12 feet over the property line. This old man owns this dirt. Technically, you are trespassing." Jax turned pale. But Zillow said—" "Zillow isn't the law," the sergeant said. "He has the right to remove encroachments." "But wait," I said, pointing to the expensive pool equipment humming near my feet. "Officer, if the line is here, that means these pumps are also on my land." I picked up a sledgehammer from my belt. Jax screamed, "No, don't! That's the heating system. It controls the whole pool." "It's loud," I said, "and it's on my lawn." Smash. I brought the hammer down on the PVC pipes. Water erupted like a geyser. The pool jet stopped. The lights in the pool flickered and died. The infinity pool began to drain into the mud. The party was over. The guests were fleeing. The live stream comments were brutal. "He destroyed them. El Zillow. Don't mess with Gramps." The aftermath. Jax and Chloe were evicted by their landlord a month later. They couldn't pay the $40,000 bill to remove the concrete from my land. Yes, I sued them for the removal cost. Their sponsors dropped them because trespassing and harassment isn't brand safe. I used the settlement money to replant my oak trees. They are saplings now, small and fragile. But they will grow. And the best part? It's quiet. I sit on my porch listening to the birds, drinking my coffee. Sometimes I look at the empty lot next door and smile. They thought they could wall me out. But they forgot one thing. Fences work both ways. And you never start a war with a man who has lived longer than your country has existed. The moral of the story. Arrogance is a blindfold. It makes you think the world belongs to you. just because you have a camera and a bank account. But the world is built on lines, laws, and respect. Before you try to bully the weak old man next door, remember, he has survived things you can't even imagine. And never ever build on land you didn't survey. Because the most expensive lesson you'll ever learn is the one taught by a chainsaw.